All right. I am Bree Noble, and I am here today with Art Munson from Music Library Report. I'm really excited that we're able to get together for this little interview. I have been, watching what you guys do over there for a while, and I love it. So I would love to have you first let people know a little bit about yourself, how you got into the music business, and what gave you the idea for the Music Library Report.
Oh, that's a long story.
Okay, I'm ready.
Well, got stationed out here in 1960 something, and started working with pretty much the originator of surf music, Dick Dale. Went from there to the Righteous Brothers. This is probably a lot of your audience is way too far back for them.
No. I attract everyone from their 20s to their 60s, and
yeah, well, it's the same with MLR. Went to the Righteous Brothers. They were a big act at the time, and then beat around in a couple little bands, original bands. And then at the time I was in Orange County in Southern California, and I realized that I could be 40 or 50 years old and be playing in a club, and some 20-year-old bar manager would tell me to turn my amp down, and didn't want to do that. So I moved to LA. And I knew a few people in the business from working with Dick Dale and with the Righteous Brothers, and moved up there when I was 30, and decided that, I was going to try and go to the studio route and play, do studio work, which I did for a number of years. I was also a writer at A&M for a number of years. One of the jobs I had was working with Paul Williams, who was a great songwriter. Worked with him for a number of years. And out of that, I graduated into having my own studio in LA, got tired of playing for a living. And moved to Nashville for a while to do that. Somewhere in there, we started an internet business, and that turned out really well. Ran that business for a while, but always wrote music. Had a studio in Nashville, outside of Nashville. Though I have to say that I built this beautiful studio, and I thought I would continue on engineering, and I had a band come in and, shake the studio down and say, well, we want to book some time. And at that time, I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. So got back to LA and had a friend that was working with a production company, working with a production company in Philadelphia, and they were looking for music. And we started writing production music. That was about 2006. When I say we, my wife, Robin, and I. And the great thing about being married with a spouse who does music, it's a wonderful way to go. And then in 2009, literally in a yoga class, I found MLR because I realized that we were doing production music, but there was no central source for directories of all these different music libraries that were out there. And fortunately, I contacted a few people who gave me a couple of lists, and that's how I started. And I built a website. I knew enough about, to build a website. That's what I did. And so the rest is, here we are today, 2018, and MLR has been around for almost 10 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, why don't you describe a little bit about what MLR does and what it offers for artists?
Well, it was really designed for production music composers, because that's what we were doing at the time. And so it really is dedicated to those composers who are looking to get into that field. And, production music is, what you hear behind a lot of TV shows. It very seldom gets any kind of credit. And now, of course, it's gone into, YouTube videos, corporate videos, commercials, jingles, anything where it's just that sort of background is really not featured. But there was a stat out at one point where 80 or 90% of the music you hear on TV is production music, is all in the background. Don't hold me to that percentage, but that was a number that was going around for a while. The thing was for me to collect all these various music libraries, and they could be to the high-end libraries, whether it was an Extreme Music or Five Alarm or any of those companies, down to royalty-free sites like Audio Jungle. You know, you're going from $5 for a queue, $6 for a queue to they will buy it. Excuse me, really congested here. They will, you know, in Extreme Music, you know, they're going to get top dollar for their music. So it's, you know, sort of a directory, not sort of, it is a directory of those many, you know, at this point over 500 libraries, and I'm sure there's more, and there's some dying every day, so that we have a graveyard. I think there's probably about 100 of them in the graveyard at this point since MLR opened. So that's, you know, that's what we're going after. It, you know, we do get people who are, you know, interested in getting into placing music in films, but that really isn't the thrust of MLR. It's more about production music, and trailer music is another one, and game music. Any of that kind of music is more instrumental than vocal.
That's what I was going to ask. So generally, is most of the people that subscribe are more instrumental producers, or do they tend to do both and then they kind of like pull their instrumentals out of maybe songs that they've made with vocals?
Well, some people do that, but it's really not that. It's more about writing for that market.
Okay, so specifically writing for that market.
Yeah, writing for that market. And there's certain guidelines that, you know, that you need to follow if you're going to, you know, like you don't do fade endings as an example.
Right.
You know, you always have a button or a stinger at the end. You know, you try to write so you don't have long intros. You know, you get right to it because, you know, a music supervisor isn't going to have time to listen to a long intro. They know what they want to know, you know, the meat of it. But there are libraries out there. I'll give you Crucial Music is a good example that they, you know, though I have quite a few, well, not quite a few, but a number of instrumentals there. Their thrust is more, I think, vocal. But you know, this stuff is, it just kind of gets to be kind of a mix going, because you now have production music with what we call vocalese in it, which is, you know, somebody shouting hey or singing a little line. Is that a vocal song? No, but it's got vocals in it.
Got it. So let me just clarify a couple of terms, because I think when people are not familiar with this world, they are a little confused about, like, what does the term library mean, and how does that differ from like a publisher or a label?
Oh, well, good question. A library is a company that is looking for composers, and it could be, they're basically looking for composers that they can place music in TV shows and or films. When you get into, and generally what they'll do, depending on the company, they will take 50% of the income. And a lot of these deals are either non-exclusive or exclusive deals, where you'll get the writer's share of the royalty. They will get the publishing share of the royalty. That doesn't mean that they are the publisher. It's just that they get the share of that, the income, the publishing share. Now, if you have a non-exclusive deal, then you can go out and make that deal with a number of companies that are non-exclusive companies. If it's an exclusive deal, it could be that they end up owning the copyright. You still get your writer's share. They become the publisher because now they own the copyright, and they will take whatever income is generated from that publishing side of it. They will also, depending on the deal, they might take all of the sync fee, which would be the licensing fee for the use of that particular piece of music. They also might, if they're doing that, then they might pay you for that copyright. In other words, they might give you $500 or $1,000 for that copyright in lieu of future license fees. Some libraries will, they will split the license fee with license fee with you, but they won't pay you any upfront money. So it there's all kinds of deals out there, and there are deals, none of them are set in stone. A library will say, this is my deal, or a publisher for that matter will say, this is my deal. If you're in a position of strength, you can probably cut a better deal. It really depends on what kind of strength you have. I mean, I was in the 70s, I was signed with A&M, and then their publishing company was Rondor, and what was the other one? I can't remember. But, they were a true publishing company. They paid me as a writer to write songs, and they owned all the music, and they're still trying to collect the money that they paid me over those years. I still get statements. They're still in the hole on me.
Wow.
But I still get statements from them telling me how much I still owe them, but I don't really owe them because it's at advance against royalties.
That's awesome. So I guess my question about like the listings that you have, are they monthly listings that are they looking for a specific thing, or are you just listing what libraries are available, and contact information, then we can contact them? Or are they looking for something specific in there?
No, seldom. It's a listing, and it's kind of the hook of the subscriber part of the site is that a good many of those libraries have comments and experiences of composers over the years with a particular library. So you can kind of get a feel, what that library is like to work with. Now, a library may send out briefs, what they call them as a brief. Now, we're looking for this, and we're looking, for this kind of music for this show. Some libraries do that. Some don't. You just give them, whatever you have, and then they will put it in their catalog, and then they will try to place it.
Okay, so do those briefs come to your report, or is it only once you're in that library that you then get those?
The briefs will come to the library that you sign with.
Okay.
So say you go onto the site, you go to the subscription site. Now let me say this. I'm sorry about my congestion here. Living at the beach, I guess.
Summer cold.
I lost my train of thought here. We're talking about the briefs.
Yes.
Let me just think where I was here. Old age. The briefs come once you make the deal with a library. They will send briefs. Not all libraries will send out a brief to you. The libraries we have, we list them all. We try to keep, current on. Some libraries will come along and say we're no longer accepting submissions, so we update I say we, it's basically me. I have to update the site or update that particular listing if there's any changes, if they've died and gone to the graveyard, or get rid of them. So I'm just trying to maintain a directory that's active and that is up to date as possible. So it's really up to the person. Oh, I know what I want to say. Half of the site is free. I just want to make that clear. There's a lot of great information on the site that you don't have to pay anything for. Now, what I do charge for, and the only reason I'm charging, I think it's a fairly nominal fee, is it does take a certain amount of time and money to keep the thing going. So that's why I elected to have on the directory listing site, have that as a subscription site. But there is a lot of information that's free. There's a lot of active composers that will give you feedback. We have a critique section where people will post, please critique my music. What do you think of it? What could I do better? And, people will get on there and they'll give you a critique. And most of them are all, composers are all making some kind of a living at this. I don't say they can give up their day job, but they are making money at it.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the libraries that you have, like if I was to look on there and I saw a bunch of libraries, are they the kind where I could just start uploading my music? Like, for example, Audio Sparks or one of those where you can just put your music in their library and then if they like it, they'll use it? Or are some of them like, we only accept certain music and we have to review it first?
I would say generally they're always going to review it.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to be with a site that doesn't review it.
Right.
Because then you're going to end up with God knows what. It's like, give me a bunch of loops, I'll stick them together and throw them up and see what happens. But I would say if you want to get into, a decent library, you'd want them to review it. And some libraries specialize, but I think that most libraries want to have a diverse catalog because they want to, let's face it, they have clients, they want to appeal to as many people as possible. And as a composer, thankfully, with Robin, she comes from a different background, so we can write a wide variety of music. So for our personal catalog, we want all kinds of styles in there. And I think a library would also.
Definitely. I agree. So are there any other, I noticed your site has a section on newbie questions, which I think is great. Do you have are there any other newbie questions that are common that I didn't ask already?
Oh, there probably is. I can't think of them offhand. We have a YouTube channel where I just started having somebody do a bunch of videos. So we've got about 16 videos up there now with a lot of basic stuff.
Cool.
It's if you search Music Library Report YouTube, you'll find it.
Perfect.
But there's a lot of kind of just general basic information there. It's free. You can just go look at it and look at that and go to the site, ask questions. People will answer them.
Great. And what kind of do you have any tracking or track record of the success that people have found through using the Music Library Report as far as money making?
I really should do that. I really need a testimonial page. I get a lot of good feedback from people that have gotten placements, and
I see that you do interviews with people that have been making money from music.
Yeah, my interviews is I give them a sheet of questions and they answer them, and that's my interview. I don't consider myself a good interviewer type person.
Well, it doesn't even have. I mean, just to get the information of
get the information, and just get other people's take on how they do things. But most people, when they first come on ML, are overwhelmed and they just go, "Oh, this is horrible. I can't find anything." But if you just take the time and look through it and work through it, and as a number of people have said, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes time. This is, I don't. Your audience consists of, I'm not sure. Is it mainly songwriters?
It's the whole gamut, but the reason I'm even interviewing right now is because I'm working with my friend Michelle Lockie, that I know that is a composer, and she is making consistent money from this, and she always talks about the 5-year plan.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, my 5-year plan
take a while.
Mine is 12-year plan now. So, but you keep whacking away at it.
Yeah.
And it's a constantly work in progress. I was working on metadata today, and my brother called me. He was a great composer, and I just said, metadata is a whole nother ball game. We all have to learn. Nobody wants to learn it. Nobody wants to be administrator, but you learn it, and it's constantly changing. I look at metadata on cues that I've done, 10 years ago, and I go, what was I thinking? So wrong. This is so wrong and just constantly learning. I'm constantly changing titles, to be more reflective of what the music, feels like. But just as things, it's a marathon. It definitely is.
It is, but if you have the passion to write music, then you're going to write it anyway. So why not try to get it into some production, opportunities and make money, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, I'm late to the game to Spotify and all that stuff, but it's getting as many passive income flows as you can get going.
Absolutely.
And I tell people, it's just, you get it. I look at Spotify, it's pennies, but the thing is, who knows where this is going? And I'm just putting my fingers out there in as many, pies as possible, because you just don't know. And for me personally, I want to own all of our music. I'm not going to give it up. All my stuff is not exclusive, but that's just a choice that somebody has to make. And I think that's a choice that people make depending on where they are in their life.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I know that you have generously given us, my audience, a discount. So can you tell people how much it is to join the monthly subscription?
Well, it starts with weekly. I think the weekly is $14.95.
Okay.
Where the coupon is 25% off. And what a lot of people do is because there's so much information, especially when you're going through libraries and go, well, let me read the comments on this one. Let me look at this one. Let me try that. A lot of people come on and they get a week, or maybe they'll get a month. And I forgot what the month is. I have to look it up. It's on the website. The coupon will give you 25% off. They'll come on, they'll get a week, they'll digest a lot of information, and then, they'll come back a month or two later, or maybe 6 months later, they'll get another week.
That makes sense. That's a great model. Do you have a lot of new libraries coming on, or is it mostly the same information?
No, there's always new ones coming up. I got an email the other day from somebody who said, well, I'm starting a library, and I'd like to reach out to your composers and start this library. I said, well, what's your website? Do you have any track record in this business? Well, I am a composer, but I don't have the website. Well, okay, try it, maybe. But I mean, most of the time, a composer will say, well, here's a new company. Then I'll get them and I'll list them. And I have a page, a new listing page up there. It shows all the latest listings of them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Well, you guys, I want to make sure you guys get your 25% discount. So I'm creating a link for you. It's at femmusician.com/library. That's F as in female, E as an entrepreneur, musician.com/library. You can go over there. And then remember to put in the code. Do you remember what our code is? I'm trying to remember what it is now.
It was FMI25.
FEM25. Thank you. FEM25. So go to the link, femmusician.com/library, and then put in FEM25 to get your 25% off. And thank you so much, Art. I really appreciate this. And I will definitely let you know what the feedback is that my audience has on what you got going on over there. And I can't wait for a lot of them to try it.
Yeah, thank you. And then you can always contact me there on the site. Just, hit the contact link and ask away.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bree. Take care. Nice to meet you.